Assalamualaikum viewers. Welcome to Story Adventure. I'm Habiba. And first I need to ask you a question before reading you a story. Do you know the people who are bad can change into good guys? Have you ever seen those? I'm going to tell you the story about it. The story name is Mr. Creep the Crook. Let's start. Mr. Creep the Crook was a bad man. Mrs. Creep the Crook was a bad woman. Miss Creep and Master Creep were bad children. And Growler Creep was a bad dog. See, Mr. Creep is stealing, Mrs. Creep is stealing, and Miss Creep and Master Creep are stealing. They're all bad guys. For some of the time, Mr. Creep and his family lived in a secret den. For the rest of the time, they lived in jail. One day, Mr. Creep was sitting in his little jailhouse. He was drinking a cup of jailhouse tea and eating a piece of jailhouse cake and planning how to get out. See, they are living in a secret den and he's got a lot of money. Now they're captured by cops and now he's sitting in his jailhouse. Here is Mr. Creep's plan. See, this is the jailhouse, jailer, wall, seaside holiday. And his plan is, I'll make it simple to you. They're going to dig and they will come here, and this is the wall. This is the jailer. They'll come into and sit down in the stolen car and play fun at the seaside. Mrs. Creep was knitting a jailhouse jumper. When she saw the plan, she said, "That's a nice plan. Can we stop at a wool shop and a sweet shop too?" the children said. But Mr. Creep shook his head. "No," he said. "No changes to the plan. It's foolproof." See, she's saying that's a very nice plan. A few weeks later, this happened. See, they dug, but there were pipes, cement, and a lot of bricks, and it looks a bit tricky to get out. And no car, just a bike. And in the seaside, no fun, just raining. A few weeks later, this happened. As you can see, the plan was foolproof. Well, nearly. The next day, Mr. Creep was sitting on the sand. He was eating a seaside sandwich and drinking a bottle of seaside beer and planning how to get rich quick. See, he's eating a seaside sandwich and drinking a seaside beer. I don't like him, do you? Here is Mr. Creep's plan. Who to rob, what to take. Mr. Biff, they want gloves from him. Mr. Cosmo, they want magic hat from him. Mrs. Wobble, they want food from her. That's a very nice plan, Mrs. Creep saying. Mrs. Creep was being buried in the sand by the children. When she saw the plan, she said, "That's a very nice plan. But you forgot the wool shop." "Growl," said Growler. Then a few days later, this happened. See, Mr. Creep is saying, "Ouch!" Mr. Biff is punching him. And they had their bottoms burned by Mr. Plug. They see all the things. Mr. Cosmo the Conjurer played a trick on them. See? Mrs. Wobble, the waitress, dropped a jelly on them. They got stung by bees, kicked by a horse, and chased by cops. By mistake, they also burglared a burglar, and he robbed them. And besides all that, it snowed. Was that a foolproof plan too, Dad? The children said. But Mr. Creep said, "No." See, it's snowing and they are in the snow, missing their little jailhouse and their secret den. A few hours later, Mr. Creep was sitting in his secret den. He was drinking a glass of secret water and sticking a secret plaster on his nose. Also, he was dreaming of his cozy jailhouse and planning how to get back in. Here is Mr. Creep's plan. See, they're getting back in. That's the exactly way where they got out. This time, it really is a foolproof plan, he said, and it was. Now, as you have seen, Mr. Creep the Crook was a bad man, Miss Creep the Crook was a bad woman, Miss Creep and Master Creep were bad children, and Growler Creep was a bad dog. See, now he's sitting cozy in his cozy sofa. However, most things change as time goes by, so after a year or two, the creeps were not quite so bad. And after another year, they were nearly good. And after 6 more months, they were good. See, now they're doing some good things. As time flew by, they all went good. At last, they were let out of jail. The next day, Mr. Creep was sitting up in bed. He was drinking a cup of homemade coffee and eating a slice of homemade toast and planning his last plan. See, the cop is crying because they are such good guys. And now Mr. Creep is settling in his new house. Being good, final plan. Mr. Creep, get a job, Lollipop Man. Mrs. Creep, get a job, Scales Lady. Master and Miss Creep, go to school, top of class. Growler, well trained. When Miss Creep and the children saw the plan, they said, "That's the best plan of all. It's perfect, Dad. It's foolproof." And so it was. See? Well, nearly the end. Thank you for watching, and I hope you will watch my next video. Bye!